Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.
Hi everyone, welcome to Road to Cheltenham. We are back in the studio for the second episode in the new series. And Ruby, the last 7 days have got lots of enjoyment to it, lots of things to be excited about, but there was also a tough day at Cheltenham on Sunday.
Yeah, look, Sunday afternoon in Cheltenham, or the latter half of Sunday afternoon in Cheltenham, wasn't all that enjoyable. Look, exercise-associated sudden death is not a term that has been contrived for horse racing. It's come about through all athletes, and it does happen to horses as well. Now, there's more research in other divisions, and you would love to know with horses, is there a way that we could get on top of this or prevent this? And ultimately, no one wants a day like last Sunday.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to know, how can we minimise risk for horses that are out there competing? Now, the BHA have put out a statement today which talks about the post-mortem examinations of the 3 horses that lost their lives at Cheltenham on Sunday. Bangers and Cash and a Buffalo Soldier suffered, as Ruby's referenced, separate varieties of cardiovascular collapse, which is a form of exercise-associated sudden death. Napatandi, who fell in the Great Wood, sadly he fractured a vertebra in his neck with no other abnormalities identified. So what are we doing to try and minimise this risk? Well, there's a few things happening and have been happening for some while. First of all, there's an enhanced fatality review process. This involves a group of experts watching videos, talking to the jockey, trainer, trainer's vet and racecourse personnel that are involved when a horse loses its life. It's so that they can build a more detailed picture of that horse and what happened. And this has been in place for every fatality on the racecourse since the start of 2024 and will remain in place. It used to be only unusual incidents that were investigated to this depth. Now it's every single one. But then there is specifically cardiovascular events and EASD. A number of fronts of research are happening here. Specialist Celia Marr, who you remember helped oversee bringing Sprinter Sacra and Denman back from their problems with atrial fibrillation. She's teamed up with Surrey University to try and develop an AI-based test to try and identify horses at increased risk of irregular heart rhythms. And then over in America, the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority, or HISA, has established an EASD working group and announced funding for 2 groundbreaking studies. One which uses training data with wearable devices on horses, trying to identify risk factors. And I know that the BHA is also involved with the Universities of Pennsylvania and Minnesota on this. And then also identifying biomarker differences between healthy thoroughbreds and those that succumb to EASD to try and develop a non-invasive screening test. And then finally, next month, we're going to learn more from the Horse Welfare Board and the BHA about the racing risk model. This was developed in partnership with the Royal College of Veterinary Science, using their expertise in epidemiology, and it initially used 14 years of jumps data, recently broadened to include the flat. It's already got some projects and some changes in the pipeline, and we will find out more about those next month from the BHA. So that is important to address, but we also need to enjoy what happened over the last 7 days. And I think centre stage in that regard very much goes to Jonbon in the Schlur.
Well, I think it does. He was definitely the standout horse for the weekend. Like this time last year when he came to the Schlur, you were wondering how he was jumping would hold up in open company. I think if anything, his jumping has progressed all through last season, and I thought at the weekend he was very, very good. Good at the first, good at the second. Nico de Bonville went a very even gallop on him as he kept watching the speedometer here. Even up the hill to the 5th fence, he made 31 miles an hour. It was very level throughout the race. When he got in close, that's him shortening, and you don't even notice him doing it anymore. He just takes one stride to shorten now, whereas in the past he was taking a couple. He's long at this ditch and he pings it. And Edwardstone, we know he's a fast jumper, but Jonbon here was every bit as fast as Edwardstone all the way. Gets into the third last. Again, he gets in close, but you don't notice him backing off anymore. He just takes that half a stride and pings out through the fences. Now, he did quicken up. He was doing 36, 37 miles an hour off the bend, and he maintained 31, 32 miles an hour all the way to the line to hold off Boot Hill and Edwardstone. He wasn't ridden near as aggressively this year as he was in the Schlur last year. but I still think it was a really good performance. I think he sets the standard in the 2 mile chase division, and I think there's more to come from him.
Albeit the official handicappers disagree. They have Al Fabiolo's early season form from last year as being top of the 2 mile tree. For me, Jonbon is it. I think he was in deeper at crucial moments, both in the celebration chase, and I know it was over 2.5 miles, but also in the Melling. Yeah,
but they're going on last season's early form. He has to come back this year and do it. Right here, right now, handicapping's an opinion. We're only going on that, and to me, he sets the standard.
Less fizzy beforehand as well.
Age. Everyone gets a bit more mature with age. Yeah.
I'm glad you do. I'm not sure about me. But yeah, essentially you're saying that to some degree Boot Hill and Edwardstone might be flattered. That was, for Boot Hill, a very encouraging performance. Harry Fry was encouraged to take Jonbon on again in the Tingle Creek potential.
Yeah, and why wouldn't he? I mean, he's up against it in the handicap, Boot Hill, and he was ridden, I think, by Brian Carver to achieve his best possible finishing position, and he followed Edwardstone and nabbed him to finish second.
Yeah, first time that Brian Carver had been on board that horse. The horse was coming back from wind surgery over the summer break, and potentially Edwardstone blew up a little. I agree with you. I think it was a really good start, controlling the race from the St Jonbon, and his jumping was push button. We also, the following day, had a key event at Navan. This was the Fortria chase, and the second season chaser won it. Yeah,
in found a 50. Plenty of pace on here. 6 runners that bounced out across the track. Bambidge on the right, found a 50. Gentleman to Me, Captain Guinness, Solness and Sinicia. Solness in the dark green cap on this side under Danny Mullins. He took over when they got to the second fence, and he went a really good gallop. 32, 33 miles an hour is a good speed at Navan, and he put plenty of horses under pressure. Bambidge missed the 4th. I'm not sure. I think he likes a race he builds into rather than a race that's run hard from the start. And by the time we got to the 5th last fence, Captain Guinness at the back of your shot, the champion chase hero, he was struggling. And you couldn't have predicted this beforehand. Last ditch, 4 out, Solness, Sinicia found a 50 or the 3 to count. Gentleman to Me, Bambridge and Captain Guinness are gone out of the race. So a kind of a topsy-turvy sort of a race. And found a 50 really ground it out. To the 3rd last, Solness found a 50, jumps in behind him. But he arrived there going well for Jack Kennedy, but ultimately has to be asked plenty to go and win. The finishing speed percentage was well under 100, it was 97%-ish. They went really strong early, but this was workmanlike, and I don't think beating Solness and Sinicia is anywhere near beating Edwardstone and Boot Hill. Found a 50 as a marker. Yeah, he put down a marker. Does it prove anything for Gaelic Warrior, who was too good for Mindy Arkle? Probably not really. It was workmanlike and he got the job done, but I don't know, is he a 2.5 mile horse?
Possibly. It does suggest that he has that option, I think, that performance. Jack Kennedy also said that he hung right and he jumped right. For me, looking at the overall race, that end-to-end, unremitting good gallop, I think just found out those horses that were making their seasonal debut. Now, clearly, Captain Guinness might have had some heart irregularity. Yeah,
again, which he's had in the past, and that they've been able to rectify that in the past, so hopefully they can again. It looked like it caught Gentleman to Me out, but like I've always thought Bambridge wanted further than 2 miles, and when they went hard early there, they put him under the pump way too quick.
And the problem is Sinicia in many ways, because Solness, I think he's in the form of his life, but Sinicia was the rank outsider, and she's right on heels.
Yeah, but she's a Jekyll and Hyde too. She has the odd run here or there where you're thinking she has some mark, but has never managed to deliver off it.
I suppose she'd be very fit from having raced all summer as well.
Yes, and we'll see that with a couple of horses throughout the show.
Yeah, okay. What do you make of the right-handedness? Because we're about to have a look at the Tingle Creek for Founder 50, I mean, because potentially he might run at Sandown in the Tingle Creek. We'd have a look at the betting for that. So he would be second favourite at 4-1.
Yeah, maybe he'll go to Sandown. Hilly Ways the same weekend. Maybe he'll go to Leopardstown at Christmas. He could go there. I still think it's a fair jump for him to get to Jonbon's level. And to be honest with you, I'm not an odds-on fan, but 1-2 would look some price about Jonbon.
There were a few of horses there that ran down the field in the Arkle, Founder 50, not down the field, Founder 50 in second, but one horse that finished 4th and took them along in the Arkle is Matata. We've seen him twice this season, most recently on Sunday. Yeah,
jumped out. He went a really good gallop. He went much quicker than Jonbon went, or even Load of Sud. 33, 34 miles an hour. Sam Twiston Davis let this fella rock along, and he has a good stretch on gun gun sight ridge as they jumped the fourth last fence at the top of the hill. But to me, Lydia, I think he was lucky. I think when you watch it here from the drone going to the second last, you can see Jonbon coming on the right of your shot. Look at the gap to Matata at the second last, and that gap only gets short, closer all the way to the last fence. He catches the top and dribbles over. I think gun sight ridge is coming to beat Matata. But Matata had gone a really good gallop, and look, he obviously likes going left-handed, so you probably won't see him in the Tingle Creek, but yeah, I think he was a fortunate winner.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Gunsight Ridge, of course, was receiving £11 from him. It's still a decent horse. He might pick up, the way he goes, he might be able to pick up a few races along the way.
He will, and look, if you're not in, you can't win, and I think we all saw that with last year's Champion Chase.
Right, the big race of the weekend was the Paddy Power Gold Cup. It was won by Il Ridotto, ridden by teenage sensation Freddie Gingell. But horses that were further back are going to potentially be featuring in top contests this season, or we expect them to. The likes of Protectorat, the likes of Genie's Destiny? Yeah,
you'd be hoping Genie's Destiny. I mean, he was thereabouts a novice chaser last year. He booked out here with Editor de Guy, Tilrid Toto, and Protectorat was sat in a position similar to the one he had in the Ryanair down the inside, but he lands on the running rail at the back of the third fence on the inside. Don't ask me how he managed it, but he did. He landed on it, and then he went high at the fourth fence because of that. He's entitled to. If you landed down the running rail, you'd expect him. But you see how he jumped a bit right there after going left at the previous fence, and again he gets a bit high at the next fence. Now, Editor de Guy, when they got into the back straight, he jumped into the water, and I don't know, did he put Genie's Destiny off, or did Genie's Destiny just do it all by himself? But they both land hind end in the water, which you might see one do it. Very uncommon to see one horse behind the other doing it. Genie's Destiny got in there. Protectorat was good to the last ditch. We lost in Excelsis Deo, who stood too far back, and Unseated Rider at the ditch. But I was disappointed with Genie's Destiny here. Down to 3 out, you're thinking on the inside, he's still got a chance. But in a stride, he's gone. He just folded so quickly. Let's Go Champ went by him, along with Il Ridotto. Protectorat was plugging away. I'm not sure Henry's horse down the inside fully stayed.
Let's Go Champ
didn't look like he stayed in Galway to me either. But Protectorat does fade, but it was how quickly Genie's Destiny stopped. Be allowing him needing the run. You would love to have seen him get a second wind and run again.
Yeah, that's the imponderable. I mean,
yeah.
Paul Nicholls said afterwards about Genie's Destiny, he was big as a bull, and he said that he would need the run, and then sort of it underlined that afterwards. But as you say, you'd be prepared to entertain it, provided he'd sort of then finished off the race.
You can allow horses to blow up and take a heave and then give them half a furlong and they'll start to pick up again. But he didn't. That'd be a slight concern for me.
The eye-catching for me was Madara back in fourth, first run for the Skeltons.
Yeah, and took a couple of runs last season as well. That was eye-catching. I wonder when you go back there in December, you would have thought so. Fugitive too. I think he could improve for the run as well. And the new course suits Fugitive much better. And
Protectorat, Dan Skelton was saying that he didn't hard train him in the way that he did this time last year when he ran in the Betfair Chase. It was a first run type preparation, and there are other targets for him during the course of the season. So he's not in this Saturday's Betfair Chase. What are you laughing at?
The fact he blew out the head out last year after hard training and wouldn't have changed his mind as well, no?
That too, I think. There are many things that I think came towards making that decision.
Which way are we spinning it this week?
Let's have a look at the declarations for the Betfair Chase. Now, some interesting points here. Brave Man's Game is wearing first-time blinkers. He wore cheek pieces for the first time in the bowl last season. And Sam Twiston-Davies, as you'll see, is on board, not Harry Cobden, who goes to Ascot to ride Pic D'Orhy in the 1965 chase. We also have Gabin Meunier riding Gold Tweet, last season's Cleve Hurdle winner, who mixes it between hurdles and chases. And I think that's Gabin's first ever ride in Britain. How do you see this?
How do I see it? You're kind of hoping, I suppose, that if Grey Dawning is going to chuck his hat in the ring to be the leading staying chaser in the UK, you would be hoping he could win that race.
Nonetheless, it's a step up from out of novice.
It is a step up, big time. Yeah, big step up.
He'd been due to potentially run, he had a couple of entries early in the season, Charlie Hall, the Colin Parker at Carlisle, but he was taken out because the ground wasn't suitable. Dan Skelton making noise that the horse is fitter than he has been in the past in his career, first time, because he's facing the toughest ask first time of his career.
But that's the imponderable when you get out of novice company. The novice The novice era of any horse's life is the easiest era of their lives. And when you get into open company, it is tough. But look, he faces some decent horses. Last year's winner, Royal Pagaille, Brave Man's Game with blinkers on him. It'll be a good race. And a high senior. He was eye-catching at entry.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that in a moment. But first of all, let's talk about Capadana, because he was supplemented for the race. JP McManus and Frank Berry decided to do that because the horse on the left, Corbett's Cross, who'd had a run and was heading towards the Betfair Chase, he was ruled out. And JP McManus has got so many horses in this division at the moment, it would seem that he wanted to be represented in this race.
It would. I'm not saying telling, but obviously Paul Townend was never going to go anywhere other than Punchestown to ride State Man in the Morgiana. But Mark Walsh hasn't gone to Haydock. Brian Hayes rides him. Big day for Brian, but yeah, he was good in last year's Cotswold Chase, but I think he's a bit to prove.
Yeah, I worry that Capadana might make a mistake early and that'll put him right on the back foot from the word go. He does make mistakes. Corbett's Cross, though, had a bad scope on Saturday morning. This is a quote from the Irish Field on Tuesday. Right, let's have a look at last year's race. Royal Pagaille won, beating Brave Man's Game with Correct Rambler and Protectorat further behind. Yeah,
look, I wouldn't or couldn't have foreseen this, but when they got to the 13 fence, to think that it was Royal Pagaille that was moving up to push Brave Man's Game, who Darrell Jacob rode, and Protectorat was fading out of shot. I couldn't have seen that beforehand. He made a mistake at the second last under Charlie Dodge. Correct Rambler's flat out back in third, but this turned into a real test of stamina. We know Haydock suits Royal Pagaille. He's won a couple of times there and he seems to like it, but you'd be hoping, I suppose you're looking at this through the context of Grey Dawning. Is he going to step up? To me, he has to run to a level higher than Royal Pagaille ran here if he wants to make the next step.
Definitely, although it is sort of stepping into open company, this isn't the top of the ladder of open company, is it? This is an assailable position.
It is. It's a good place to start, good place to dip your toe in the water anyway.
And Brave Man's Game, he took a step backwards last season from the Charlie Hall to the Betfair Chase. He hasn't done so well in the Charlie Hall this time around.
I still think you could argue the King George was a step backwards as well. I don't know, I think Brave Man's Game kept progressing last year and I haven't seen any reverse in the regress.
Let's take a look at the Old Rowan Chase. Ruby's already referred to it. This was a Hoy Senior making his seasonal debut at the track that he loves.
Yeah, and it looked like Derek Fox had a plan in his head. They quickened up out of the back straight. He couldn't go with them, nor does he attempt to. And it looks like he had it when he went out that I'm going to go where this horse is comfortable and ride him from the second last. Because you're thinking here, the third last fence, go on, Derek, go after the ones in front. Manila Drama, Stage Star, Unexpected Party. You're thinking, go on, he doesn't. He waits till he gets to the back of the second last and then he goes after him. Now, he does run home, and plenty of people gave out about it. I can see their point. I can also see Derek Fox's point. He's using this race as a stepping stone to Haydock and he rides him to make sure he comes home. Now, could he have moved 100 yards further? Some people will argue he could, but to me it looked like he rode to an exact plan and it was on landing over the second last is where he was going to press this horse.
I think all of those things are true. I think had he pressed on sooner, he probably would have won. If you look at the relative finishing percentage speeds and just use your eyes, you can see that he's bearing down on Manila Drama, who was beautifully ridden and well placed by Brian Hughes and Donald McCain, respectively. He
was, but then the other side of that for a Hoy Senior was he was giving Manila Drama £20, was he?
Yes, that's
He was given 17 to Hitman, 6 to Stage Star, and 20 to Unexpected Party. It was a really solid run, and if he's come forward from that, but Hoy Senior is Jekyll and Hyde.
He's a rule unto himself, isn't he? A rule unto himself.
It must be so frustrating to ride, train. It must be great to be part of him, but to think like you're going racing, which horse is going to turn up?
Absolutely. He's a lovable, great big klutz. I like him. I like him a lot. I've always been a fan of the horse, but I've got no idea what he's going to do on his first visit to Haydock. Right, let's take a look at the betting for the John Durkin now. Oh my goodness, look at this belting race at Punchestown on Sunday.
And I think reading even this morning's paper, Spillans Tower is going to line up Factified, Faster, Slower, Galloping the Champ, Spillans Tower, Grange Clare West. I don't know about I know the way you're thinking. Journey with Me, Limerick Lace. As far as I know, Manila Cook Cooner does run, so does Blue Lord, and Capadano goes to Haydock. But it is an absolute belter. And it's Punchestown were pushing for a long time to get this John Durkin out of December back into November. And it's been rewarded. Last year was the first year you had appreciated Galloping the Champ, Faster, Slow. This year you're getting a belter again. This is an ideal stepping stone. But the beauty of it too, Lydia, is the distance.
Yes.
for a first run. You say, oh, High Senior having his first start over 2.5. They may well, a lot of these, be 3-milers. But an athlete doesn't start his season in a marathon, even if that's going to ultimately be his goal. You got to start a bit short and be building up, and this is perfect.
Yeah, and I think you're going to compare and contrast the last two John Durkins with those two different positions in the calendar. On Sunday, it will be the 7th time that Galopin Des Champs on Fast or Slow have met each other, and it's gone each way so far in the two John Durkins.
It has, and look, I guess the first time, this was 2022, Fast or Slow in the red cap jumps by Galopin Des Champs and Fakir Dudari at the top of the hill. Now Galopin just lose a bit of ground on him at the next one too, but that was the first time we had seen Fast or Slow over fences in Ireland or England. And I suppose by the time we got to the last fence, Fast or Slow was dropped out of your shot, and I didn't really notice on that occasion how well Fast or Slow jumped because he finished so far back out of the race. But you roll it on 12 months when we know all about, or 11 months, not 12 months, because that was late December, to last year, fence away from the stands, it was similar to the year before. Fast or Slow is a quicker jumper than Galopin Des Champs. He always has been. Fast or Slow loses around about 4 miles an hour per fence, whereas Galopin Des Champs loses 5. Thereabouts. And Fast or Slow is just a faster jumper than Galopin Des Champs. So at 2.5 miles, you've appreciated, and Blue Lord in here, and Fast or Slow gets a dream run through on the inside to win. But they'll go at it again, and as they're both getting older, it's hard to see either of them getting quicker. But this trip really suits Fast or Slow.
It does.
In a match.
That race is what inspired the change of tactics on Galopin Des Champs, which came off to incredible effect in the Savills Chase. The fact that he gets, if you go positive with him, he gets into his rhythm earlier. The tactics that weren't produced at Punchestown, I will keep banging this drum. Do you expect him to be ridden forward over 2-4, or do you think?
He'll be ridden forward, but it's November.
Yeah.
When he won at John Durkin, it was the middle of December. When he put in that performance you're on about, it was the 27th of December. It's still only late November, so he'll be ridden forward, but he'll be a better horse at Christmas.
It's a stepping stone.
And it is for them all. I would even think it is for Fast or Slow. Everyone's starting. You have to be ready enough to have a go, but it's still a starting point.
It is. The horse for whom it is not a starting point is Il Était Temps. He was meant to be part of the Mullins Massive, but unfortunately he has had a small setback.
Very small. It's an infection, so it's only
of the knee,
couple
is that right?
in the knee, yeah. Not very common, and I'd say when they were looking at him the other morning, they thought it was a lot more, but thankfully it was only an infection.
Oh, well, that's a relief. Glad to hear that it's just a minor thing from Il Était Temps, who was so good both at Aintree and at Punchestown last season, taking the scalps of Ginny's Destiny, Grey Dawning and Gaelic Warrior, no less. And he could be a force, despite his medium size this season over fences.
Medium size?
All right. I was being polite.
He can't hear you. He won't be offended.
Okay. But people connected, people close to him might be, you know.
They'll get over it.
I'll say it how it is. All right, okay. He's a pocket rocket. Now, I'm sure you're wondering what this is all about.
I am.
All will be revealed. You know what this is about.
I wasn't listening.
You weren't going for the magic of television 7 days ago, you know. Now you want me to pretend that you don't know what this is about?
I haven't a clue.
If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to win a Road to Cheltenham mug and provide a valid contribution to the show?
Providing I think it is.
Provided you jump Ruby's bar, this is the ways you can get in touch. Directly at racingtv.com, via X, YouTube or Instagram. We enjoyed reading your responses to the show last week. Thank you very much for welcoming us back. We've got a few questions for you, Ruby, as a result of that. Chris Miller is the first, and he has a question about Jerry Colombe. He said he's just using him as an example, actually. Why do trainers run horses on, say, right-hand tracks when they might need to go left-handed?
It's probably to do with the programme. So if Jerry Colombe doesn't run in Down Royal or at Punchestown, where does he go? Does he want to travel him to Wetherby to go left-handed? Probably not. Was he a Grade 1 winner last season? Would he have had a penalty in Wetherby? He would have for winning in Down Royal, so he didn't want to go there. So there's no penalty for him in Down Royal. But it's just, if he didn't go to Down Royal, the next race for him in Ireland is Punchestown, which is right-handed as well, over 2.5 miles before he gets to Christmas. So it's just to do with the programme where the races are.
Yeah, and especially won at Down Royal.
He did
last season.
It's not ideal for him, but there are times you can only the programme dictates where you can go at certain times.
I do also sometimes feel that the greatest limitation to a horse's achievements can sometimes be the ambition of connections. Do you know what I mean? You can, unless you run, you can't. You find out. That's how you find out whether you can win a race.
Exactly, but I'd have always felt Carter should have been a better horse going left-handed because he jumped left, but his record tells you he was better going right. I don't know.
Thomas,
you're not getting a mug either. You should have known the answer to that.
Thomas O'Byrne, you don't get one of these. Thomas O'Byrne seems to be a fan of horses not racing.
Is it worth?
He wants Galopin de Champs to do an album photo.
Why?
In preparation to the Gold Cup. I have no idea why, Thomas. I have no idea. I like to see horses running. It's called horse racing for a reason.
Why would he do something different to what he did last year?
Particularly as you've won the Gold Cup twice. I mean... So
he won a Savage Chase and an Irish Gold Cup, and then he wants him to go to Tramore.
Is Thomas getting a mug? Right, we have a couple of people asking the same question. Both Bill Bassett and Andrew Thompson want to know, why aren't the English and Irish handicap marks integrated?
Ego.
Ego?
They both think they're right.
Yeah, they've both got different ways of approaching handicapping, haven't they? There are some...
They do, but this show is not long enough to go into this debate, but no, of course they should be merged, but that means one or both have to say that theirs is not the right one.
In essence, we agree with them. I think it's got to be good for the marks to be merged. It just makes it so much easier to follow for everybody. It's just much more straightforward for those participating as well.
I would completely agree.
Right, something else.
But I don't have an answer, so you can't get a mug.
Something else potentially for Ruby to agree with, involving JP McManus as guest columnist at the Racing Post.
See that?
Yeah, there's the headline. Why Cheltenham Festival handicaps need to change. And essentially he's advocating maximum fields of 18 rather than 26 at the Cheltenham Festival. And there's a particular part of this article that chimed with you, Ruby.
Yeah, I love the line that you have to have a semi-final to have a final. I completely agree. I think JP makes a really valid point here. And that's how you incentivise competition. Even if you look at a Coral Cup at the moment, you still have 400 or 500 to 1 shots. And I do think that if you confine it to 18, horses have to run to get in. I think that's how you incentivise competition. I would agree with JP, yeah.
We also asked you via social media about Potter's Charm. He was an impressive winner at Cheltenham over the weekend. There he is, winning the Grade 2 Hyde Novice Hurdle, sponsored by Albert Bartlett, jumping a bit better than he had done previously.
Oh, way better. Now, he obviously doesn't jump as well as Valgrand, but his jumping was way better here at the second last fraction high, if you were being critical, but I love it because ultimately I think this fella could be a chaser, and I thought it was a really good performance. And look, even back to Gail Mahler, he definitely put his hat in the ring for a Challow. I heard somebody mention maybe a Formby at Christmas.
Yes.
Slow ground at Liverpool would suit him over 2 miles as well, and it was a really good performance. And what you loved, Lydia, what I liked was he's learned from every run. He's getting better, he's improving. I like that.
The time isn't particularly special. Willie Twiston-Davies is of the view that this is a horse whose jumping will continue to improve, particularly in a well-run race. He thinks that will allow the horse to use his strong travelling nature. Yeah,
and he's had a couple of runs now, so stepping up and going quicker will definitely won't inconvenience him.
Some of the roaders have been commenting on this performance. Let's take a look at these thoughts. David McIntyre says he's not remotely faced the best on this side of the Irish Sea. Let alone the other side. I always think Twiston-Davies' horses are tuned to the max early and tend to tail off as the season goes on. I hope I'm wrong, but I doubt it. Rab Andrews has something to say on the matter as well. Visually looked good, felt that Valgrand was running at the wrong trip. He thinks the 3 miler, the Albert Bartlett, looks made for him rather than the Gallagher, which is what the Bearing Bingham was called last season. It is no longer. Ash Simmons knows, move on. He said he's got plenty of speed alongside his engine. He mentions the Formby over 2 miles at Liverpool, but he thinks he's a Turner's horse. Lovely 3 miler next year now. Keep up, everybody. The race that used to be the Royal and Sun Alliance and then was the Neptune and then was the Gallagher's is now the Turners. Are you with me for the next season's Cheltenham Festival?
And which one did you miss?
Which one did I miss?
Ballymore.
Ballymore. Oh gosh, yeah, Ballymore. I knew there was one. I wrote down I've missed one. I have missed one, absolutely. Yeah, so anyway.
It's the same race anyway.
Yeah, the 2 mile, 5 furlong Bearing Bingham Novices Hurdle is now sponsored by Turners. And in fact, there are quite a few changes to the Cheltenham Festival running order. We can have a look at those as well. The feature race each day moves 1 race back on the running order from 3:30 till 4 p.m. That's partly because ITV is showing an extra race per day, 24 of the 28 races rather than 20. And what was the Turners Grade 1 Novice is now a 2.5 mile handicap chase sponsored by Jack Richards, who apparently is a haulage company and transport solutions.
Solutions to what?
Transport. And so finally, to why we have this here. Very, very kindly at Punchestown in May, a lady came up to me bearing gifts for you and me.
Funny enough, I never got the gift.
Well, here they are now.
All right.
I mentioned them to you at the time, and a very kind card as well. That was from Mary Morton, who is an avid viewer of the show. And I note from our YouTube socials that Mary was watching the first episode. Mary, we would very much like to reciprocate. So if you'd like to email into @roadtocheltenham@racingtv.com, we will be awarding you one of these. That's fair enough, isn't it?
Lydia's giving you the mug. She's much nicer than me.
Come on.
Oh yeah, thank you. So you never gave me the hat. If you gave me the hat, I would have. Thank you. Now you're getting the mug.
Okay, gents, next item on the agenda is we need to shoot something to use in the ad slot for the Road to Cheltenham.
The what?
Road to Cheltenham ad slot?
The Road to Cheltenham?
Yeah, Paddy Ware sponsored the Road to Cheltenham on Racing TV. You should probably know that.
How much is that costing us?
Doesn't matter.
Ah, come on, you know I'm on the Road to Cheltenham.
Yeah, thanks, Lydia. We already know you're on the Road to Cheltenham.
Oh, thanks, Tom. So now you want the viewers to endure me for the show and the ad slot?
Well, we can't afford to bring in anyone else.
Because the amount of bloody money we're paying to sponsor the thing.
Oh, forget it.
Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham. Apparently. First I've heard.
So if you're not going to wear it, you better hand it back over, because
As long as I can bring it home.
you can have it. You can take it home, absolutely. But our director and my husband will be having paroxysms about the lack of symmetry at the moment.
Perfectionists.
Is that all right? Okay. Novice chasers now. You had a taster of that last week. We're going to go into more detail this time around. We've had a really good British performance from Road to Cheltenham on his second start over fences.
Miracles do happen. Road to Cheltenham at Cheltenham. Western's offer booked out here with Look Away. Road to Cheltenham always in good position down the inside. They went hard early, up to 34 miles an hour when they got to the second fence. But Road to Cheltenham, we just always found this so easy. You can see how far the horses behind have dropped back off them. Got to the fifth fence as they climbed up the hill, which kind of put more merit on Jonbon, because these has dropped down to 25 miles an hour as they were climbing the hill, whereas Jonbon in the Slur kept that gallop up. Down to the sixth fence, gets in close, pops it, but it was always Harry Skelton's body language. Every time he came into the shot or the shot changed, he got to the back of a jump, Harry Skelton was always the one that was going, whoa, slow down, slow down. This horse was just absolutely loving it. Down to the last ditch, which should be next, he's down on the inside, and again, he's just so good. It lies on his neck, lengthens to it, and when Harry gave him the offers to go, he increased his speed, so he ended up right at the takeoff board. He actually lengthened his stride to get there. Down to the third last, Harry Skelton lands, and straight away there's a gap down the inside. Doesn't even want to take it. He's going that easy. He pulls back off, Look Away, gets the gap between them, flies the second last, quickens to the last, where he's doing 32, 33 miles an hour at the end of a novice chase. Good jump in deep, snaps up in front and sticks them back out. Really good performance, and he sets a good standard.
You like him, and you like how he's approaching his fences, clearly.
I like everything. There's no negative for Road to Cheltenham. It's just, does he keep going when he meets better horses? But there's no negative for him right now.
Yeah, he's clearly the best British novice chaser at this stage. He was 138 over hurdles, second in the county, second in the Betfair hurdle, fifth in the Scottish Champion hurdle. He heads towards the Henry VIII on the same day as the Tingle Creek at Sandown, and then either the Kingmaker, or Dan even mentioned potentially taking on the established horses in the game, Spirit as a stepping stone to Cheltenham. But obviously it's miles ahead.
Miles, yeah, see how the Henry VIII goes first.
Yeah, OK. Let's talk about Peaky Boy and
Different
his
horse.
unbeaten record at Cheltenham.
Yeah, very different horse. First fence, he was quite good here. He's dropped in, middle of the shot, number 4 with Nico de Boinville, and he'd be happy the way he jumped his first fence, gets in quite close to the third fence, which was, again, across the middle, but gets in and snaps up. Now, it was Shermary's jumping got a little bit indifferent. He got down to the 6th fence, and when he lands, you can see Nico has to give him a squeeze when he lands to keep him going forward. He gets to the 7th fence, which would be the last in the 2nd circuit, and Nico is sitting to let him take another stride, but this fella just comes up out of his hands and absolutely flies it. Nico thinks fair enough, so when he rounds the corner and he gets to the 7th fence, he gives him a squeeze, but Peaky Boy says, no, I'm going to do it my way, leave me alone. Now, when they got up to the 13th fence, which is the last ditch, you wouldn't have picked him out as the winner. Nico's giving him a slap on the shoulder there, and he's half squeezing him and half riding him along. Good jump, but I know when I was watching this race, I wasn't thinking I'd like to be on number 4. Down to the second last, yeah, he comes to the 4, jumps the second last well, and watch how little Nico has to do on him at the last. He just leaves his hands on his neck. This fella takes the extra stride himself, jumps it and gallops away to the line to win well enough. Now, it was a novice handicap chase, but he was a good performance, but he never looked the winner, yet ultimately he became the impressive winner.
Yeah, both Nico de Boinville and Nicky Henderson talking about him going up in trip. In fact, in the post-race interview with me at Cheltenham, Nicky Henderson was very interesting about Peaky Boy and also his band of novice chasers.
I've always had a bit of a rule in my head. This is a brave place to come to first time out over fences. These are big fences, and they're, you're always meeting them on ups and downs and rounds and turns. It needs a bit of. So he would be a baby, be very inexperienced for doing it. It was quite a brave shout.
So why did you decide to make that brave shout?
We are very, very lucky at the moment. I think we've got I've said it for a while, a very strong team of novice chasers, but we haven't got a very good programme for the novice chasers. I know there are lots of 3 and 4 horse races. That's what's happened. We've got nowhere to go.
Yeah, okay. And where are you rating? You say you've got this strong band of novice chasers. How are you rating him instinctively?
Oh, he'd be high. Yeah, he would. But, we just got to keep trying to get runs into them and sort out who's what and who goes where, which is a lovely problem.
So let's go over to Ireland and have a look at better days ahead, taking the scalp of Slade Steele, the supreme winner of last season.
Yeah, that was last Sunday, I think it was, 2.5 miles at Navan. Better Days Ahead jumped out in front. Slade Steele followed him, I suppose. Both very good early in the race. 4th fence, though, Better Days Ahead. It looks to me like Jack Kennedy was waiting for him to take an extra half a stride here, and he does in the Better Days Ahead. Kind of just chucks himself at it from out of his hands. Look, he's a novice. That's what you kind of half expect novices maybe to do, but he learned from that. And when they got down into the back straight, he was always going and doing things right, and he was towards the inside here. And Slade Steele gets in deep to this, which is the 5th last fence, and when he lands, he comes straight back on the bridle. But at the last ditch, 4 from home, when Slade Steele lands, all of a sudden he's not just quite going as well. Loose rein, Darragh keeps half giving him a squeeze, and then down the straight, Better Days Ahead starts going left. Drifts to left, across in front of Slade Steele, 3 out. Jack pulls him back to the outside for what is traditionally a quicker strip of ground, but he heads off left again, across in front of Slade Steele. And when they get to the last, Darragh O'Keefe does commit to his outside. But when Jack lets go of Better Days Ahead at the last fence, he goes violently off to his left. Like at least 3 out and 2 out when he had a good hold of him, not going as quick. He was able to keep him straight, and he galloped well to the line. To be honest, it was good, but if he hadn't gone left, I'd have been really impressed with him, and I was slightly disappointed with Slade Steele.
Still time, but yeah.
Loads of time, but I just didn't. You watch different horses at different times and you go, wow, not so sure that race was wow for me.
Okay. Firefox wowed you when we asked you which novice chaser had impressed you the most so far this season. The answer was Firefox. Now your view on him. Yeah,
he jumped really well at Down Royal. I mean, a good look at the 2nd fence. Watch him here. He looks at the wing, gets back in and pings the fence. I'm not going to knock him for it. It was only his first run over fences. Mossy Fen Park on his outside was the only real opposition. When he went around by the stands in Down Royal, absolutely pings this fence. And then when the race got going down over the last couple of fences, Firefox was really good. He was brave at the 2nd last for Sam Ewing when he needed him, sat in and he pinged it, and he was going a really good gallop. And when he got to the last, he was able to dance in front of it and get up out and get his feet out in front of him. Got in really close, but he knew what he was doing. It was a good performance. 3rd and 4th are plenty close, but it wasn't a strongly run race. And yeah, he's a horse with a huge future. I mean, he did beat Ballyburn. Mystical Power was the one that kept beating him at the back end of last season, but he looked a chaser, and you wouldn't give out about him there.
Yeah, all last season I was thinking, you know, this is a proper Arkle type, but Gordon Elliott's got a strong hand. More of that in a moment. First, we're going to have a look at another one of Henry de Bromhead's. This is In the Pocket. He started out over fences last season and now returns this.
Yeah, he obviously picked up an injury and missed a lot of last season. Bounced out beside Farron Glory in the beginner's chase at Wexford a while ago. Very good at the first fence. Again, novices, most horses should be able to jump when they're spot on and perfect. It's how they react when they get in close, and this fella got in deep to the third fence and was very nimble at it, shortened up and gets himself out of it. The sixth fence then, again, this when he gets in, pings it, and he's travelling so well for Mark Walsh, and Wexford's not a bad place to go first time. Sixth fence, he was doing a half speed when he got back into the back straight. Now, again, I don't know, you can say himself in Farron Glory, neither had a fitness advantage, but this fella just always was going better than Farron Glory, and it was a really impressive performance. Absolutely flew what was the second last fence or the first fence in the straight in Wexford, and he won in a common canter. Farron Glory backed that up then when he went and won at Naas. But look, this fella did catch the eye behind Facile Viga last year. He was a decent novice hurdler, and it's good to see him back.
That was a deep race, wasn't it? A certain Spillane's Tower finished fourth in the race. Yeah. And if I were a Richmond in that race, caught my eye for future reference, not for the kind of level we're talking about with Firefox and In the Pocket clearly, but maybe for handicaps further down the line. You're going to run your eye over Gordon Elliott's troop to date. Starting with Down Memory Lane. Down
Memory Lane at Navan. He thought he was really good last Saturday, made all. Now, they didn't go quick in this race, 25, 26 miles an hour early. No one wanted to make it, and Mark Walsh took the bull by the horns. But you'd love the way Down Memory Lane jumped, ditch away from the stands, ears pricked, looking where he's going, attacks it and out through the air. And they were flying down the straight, Lydia. When they get back to the second last fence, 35 miles an hour down to the second last. King of Kingsfield's coming behind him, but this fella was really good at the second last again down Memory Lane after making the run. And now King of Kingsfield jumped onto the last fence and actually put a hole in it. If you look at it from the head-on view, he parched the birch. But I liked what Down Memory Lane did, because King of Kingsfield had the benefit of a run. Nürburgring is back in third, but this fella, he was very good this time last year, ran on real heavy ground at Leopardstown that didn't suit him, didn't run after that. But he looks an exciting chaser.
Farron Glory then has since come out after his defeat.
Put that defeat In the Pocket behind him, went to Naas. He was a bit slow at the second fence. He didn't blow me away. Now, things probably didn't go his way either. He slipped when he got around to the fourth fence, which was the second one past the stands with Jack Kennedy. But this was a pretty ordinary race. He slips in front of this fence and runs into the bottom of it, and probably knocked his confidence a little bit. He wasn't great at the fourth last either. You can watch him here. Oh My Lord is behind him. Skids in. He'd prefer if he was just taking off and winging that. Now, he did jump the last quite well. Maybe you can blame the slip for a bit of confidence, but look, he's in the Craddockstown on Sunday, and he's also in the Drinmore at Fairyhouse. But he got put well in his pocket. Look, you're always going back to him as a novice hurdler last year, and maybe he can scale those heights, but I think he'd want to be a bit braver jumping.
Yeah, won the Royal Bond, of course, fell heavily, 2 out in the Form B, and then was quite well beaten in the DRF. As you say, not fluent on debut. Maybe excuses that time, as Ruby's highlighted. Search for Glory, his stable companion?
Yeah, it was Lash and Rain when this fella won in Galway, so the camera work wasn't great. Sir Argos went a good gallop in front, gets this fence away from the stands. He kind of jumps out to his left a little bit, launches, but I wouldn't mind that. Now, this actually wasn't a bad performance, because when they get over to the third last fence, you can see how far behind Sir Argos he is as he jumps the third last fence. But when we speed this down into the dip, by the time they get to the last 2 fences, he's halved that deficit. And watch how quickly he gets to Sir Argos. That's at the second last. There's only 8 strides in there, 7 if you're lucky. He halved the deficit in no time, and then he was in front, and he ultimately ends up winning well. Good performance, and he was a decent novice hurdler.
That's where Gordon Elliott currently stands. Let's scratch the surface of Willie Mullins's band, shall we? News is that Ballyburn, who won the Bering Bingham / Sun Alliance / Neptune / etc. last season, he runs on Saturday at Punchestown. On Pere Pass, who ended the season with a win in the entry hurdle and the select at Sandown, he was not declared for the same race, but they're both going novice chasing this season. Yeah,
they are. Majborough's going as well, so there'll be plenty of novice chasers to come out in the next while.
Right, let's have a look at the declarations for the Florida Pearl, the Boodles Floridal Pearl at Punchestown on Saturday. Disappointing. Just 3 runners, all 3 of them trained by Gordon Elliott, and Jack Kennedy's on board Stella Story, the Albert Bartlett winner of last season, making his chase debut.
Yes. We saw Search for Glory Rainbow Trail is in there as well, but I guess when you look at that, Lydia, that's probably a trial for the Grade 1 3-mile novice chase at Christmas, which has been retained, and we've lost the Grade 1 2-mile novice chase at Leopardstown in Ireland. I just can't get my head around that.
Well, we said at the time it makes very little sense that it would have
It's
been better to
2.5,
retain
what is
the
it, 2-3 in Limerick? Oh, I don't know. I give up.
So Rainbow Trail, who was a winner at Gorham but fell behind Jordan's at Punchestown last time. Then on the following day at Punchestown, over 2 miles, we've got these horses still entered. Declaration's not yet there, but that looks like a competitive field.
Could be at 2 miles, but the 2-mile race is gone at Christmas.
So that's where we are with the novice chasers to date. To end the show, we're going to be taking a look at the 2-mile hurdling division. So the 2-mile hurdling division then, a bit like last week, we're going to have a look at the existing hierarchy before the disruptors return or arrive on the scene. So I started out by asking Ruby to take a look at Stateman.
Right, so last year Stateman was the perfect 5 from 5. He started in the Morgiana hurdle where things got a little tight on the home turn, but ultimately a decent jump at the last sealed the deal. He went to the Matheson hurdle then, where a mistake at the 4th hurdle didn't inconvenience him, popped the last and got up the way to beat Impere Pass. Now they reopposed at the DRF when Impere Pass changed tactics. He booked out to make the run-in, which ultimately didn't suit him, but Stateman still beat him easier before heading on to Cheltenham for the champion hurdle. Now there was no Constitution Hill, but he did cruise up between rivals off the home turn, quick into the last to join Irish Point and galloped away to make himself the champion hurdle champion. Back to Punchestown, Irish Point reverted, changed tactics. He made the run-in, but it didn't matter. Stateman picked him off going to the last and beat him in an absolute common canter.
So he is the dominant force, but did you get the sledging from Nicky Henderson back in September? Let's take a look at what he had to say. It's not quite sledging, I suppose. He's just saying on a line through Lucia, he was essentially saying that Constitution Hill would have been back in his box having dinner in the champion hurdle by the time Stateman finished, because Constitution Hill is that far ahead of Lucia.
At least we're running the right horse in the champion hurdle.
I quite like talk like this, don't you?
Yeah, at least we're running the right one, the champion hurdle.
OK, so Stateman, of course, returning in the Morgiana. We'll have a look at that field in a moment. Let's take a look at the horse that was at the top of the tree. Ruby, this time, is going to have a look at Constitution Hill.
Well, this is what he did in the 2023 champion hurdle when he beat Stateman and beat him. Well, this is what he did to him. Then last year, no fighting fifth, even though he did make the voyage to Newcastle. So that was called off and reverted to Sandown where the ground was too heavy. But he did turn up at Kempton, and a wonderful jump at the second last, followed up by a quick one at the last, made him the winner of a second Christmas hurdle. But after that, he went to Kempton, and unfortunately that was the end of Constitution Hill's season.
So this was a horse that made headlines far more often than he actually made the track last season, sadly. But it's a real shame that we didn't see him, because he was being talked about as one of the greats and might still be. And certainly that performance in the Supreme will live long in the memory. But last season was challenging. It
was challenging, and unfortunately, to be a great, you have to run and become a great.
You do. But there was a...
Great horses have the constitution and the health to race and run. Cotto Star, Big Bucks, Arkle, all those horses, Dawn Run. They have the constitution to, and that's part of being great.
It is, it's undeniable, but remember, the fighting fifth was called off. He then had a respiratory issue, and that was exposed in a disappointing gallop at Kempton, and then he had colic. So Nicky Henderson has been keen to point out he hasn't had an actual physical setback. Now, he's taken Constitution Hill to Newbury on Tuesday ahead of the Coral Gold Cup meeting. That's Constitution Hill, Nico de Boinville in the green. Ahead, we have Sir Gino, the 4-year-old, and Nicky Henderson was talking afterwards to Josh Stacey.
Well, there always is with horses like him. I don't think it matters whether it's the fighting fifth or the champion hurdle. You know, you're always under that bit of pressure. Yes, he's public. We all love him, and he's been missing for a bit. There's been nothing wrong with him, though. That's the most important thing. I mean, he hasn't had any big injury or anything. He had a bit of colic, but luckily no surgery. So that wasn't, you know, it's important to emphasise he was in training all that time.
Do you think his absence is then slightly misunderstood?
Yes, I do. Totally misunderstood. Everybody says, it's not really a comeback. I mean, if I go back to when Sprinter Sacre went missing for a year and a half, he had a serious heart problem. This horse hasn't had any serious injury of any description. He's just had a bit of bad luck. I mean, it just didn't go his way at all last year. The Fighting Fifth was abandoned. That was bad luck. He was brilliant at Kempton. Then he had 2 different issues, and it was just the timing of them was horrific, and nothing you can do about it. It wasn't his fault. I don't think it was anybody's fault, actually.
On the naked eye, maybe for those that wouldn't know, Sergino looked like he was possibly doing it slightly easier today.
Sergino is a very, very good horse.
So you didn't take any negatives from there. You were very positive.
No, because he doesn't need to do very much. He's fit. I mean, he is ready to run. The plan was to go to Kempton on Monday, but we'll just see what happens. Now we've got the rain, we've got more options come into play.
Now, social media went crazy, Ruby, after this. I think memories of that Kempton gallop living long in people's mind, and Constitution Hill was deposed as favourite for this and that immediately after this. What did you make of the gallop?
I don't know, Lydia. I don't watch Nicky Henderson's horses working. From the naked eye, you could see Sergino is obviously going better, but Constitution Hill quickened up and got tired. That's how it looked to me. So be it. But look, Willie Mullins is running the right horse in the Champion Hurdle. Nicky Henderson describes Sergino as a very, very good horse. Is he running the wrong one?
Well, Sergino starts over fences on Monday at Kempton, the race that Altior and Shishkin started off in before. Obviously, Sergino is still a 4-year-old. He missed the Cheltenham Festival with that problem that was besetting the entire yard, but after that we saw how good he was. You're hinting that he could be a real power in the Champion Hurdle. Nicky Henderson has said that should something happen during the course of the season, and either he or Joe Donnelly, who also owns State Man, needs to bring Sergino back in, that is a possibility. He said it before.
Yeah, it is a possibility, but I looked at that not as in was Constitution Hill disappointing. I was looking at that thinking, how good is the other fella?
Okay. People were undeterred when we asked them about Constitution Hill. It may have been a lot of grumpiness online following this and some negativity, but we asked the roadies, will Constitution Hill win the Fighting Fifth? What do you think the answer was?
Yes, I'd imagine.
By what? Do you think it's an overwhelming confidence?
I would have said so, 80-20, 75-25 worst, 70-30.
Yeah, okay. So that's the view. So there's been a massive reaction to the gallop, and then everybody's calmed down and taken a breath and thought about it a little bit more. Right, okay, so let's carry on with our trip through the horses for this division. Ruby is next going to have a look at Lossiemouth.
Lossiemouth, she started her year in the international hurdle where she was much too good for Love Envoy and galloped her rivals into submission. She came back to the Cheltenham Festival for the Mayor's Hurdle where she was far too good for Tell Me Something Girl and beat her in a common canter before rounding out the year at Punchestown when she was much too good for Gallimar So, whom she had been too good for as a juvenile as well. On bare form, ratings and numbers, she has a bit to find to get up to Constitution Hill or Stateman's level.
And we'll get our first idea of that as early as Saturday, because let's have a look at the declarations for the Grade 1 Morgiana. I was surprised to see Lossiemouth in this list alongside Stateman, were you?
I was. I thought one would go to the Hatton's Grace and one would run here in the Morgiana. A bit like Gordon is doing. Brighter Days Ahead is coming here. Tupu will go to the Hatton's Grace. I thought Willie's would split, but no, they're both here to have a go at each other. And I stand over the last statement he made. She has a good bit to find to get to his level.
OK, well, let's take a look at Brighter Days Ahead, because she's been out already this season, winning the Bottle Green Hurdle.
Yeah, and she was good. Now, Daddy Longlegs was race fit and he booked out to make the run at Down Royal. Sam Ewing was riding Brighter Days Ahead for the first time, sat in behind him, but he wasn't letting Paul have it his own way. Went at him as early as the third hurdle on Brighter Days Ahead, and she jumped up beside him. Now, if you keep watching her, especially a little bit to her left there, and Sam goes to correct her, goes, watch the hold he has over at the next hurdle with his right hand. You can see him, he's turning her head into the camera. He's trying to keep her straight, but she all the time wants to go left, even though there's a loose horse inside her. And that did become noticeable, and even more noticeable at the next hurdle, which was the 5th hurdle. But she's a beautiful jumper and a gorgeous mare who Gordon thinks a lot of, but she is always out to the left a bit. Down the straight, jumped the third last well. They're quickening to the second last hurdle where they were really stepping on the gas, 34 miles an hour. King of Kingsfield is the one coming at her. Comes out of Sam's hands. He goes to sit here and she pings it, and then at the last hurdle she runs in and flattens it. But I loved the fact that when she made that mistake, which had to take a lot of momentum out of her, she's able to regain it and get herself back up to 30-ish miles an hour. Gordon, look, she's the apple of Gordon Elliott's eye, and I think that's a better performance than it looks.
Yeah.
I was impressed with her.
Luckily, all the major targets are left-handed.
They are, bar Punchestown.
Yeah.
Bar the Morgiana. But she does show a little tendency to go to her left. But look, she's in that Morgiana as well with Stateman and Lassie Mouth. But look, even with the mare's allowances, they're both in the 150s. Mm-hmm. They have to find a lot to get to his standard.
Yeah, they have. But it's what you're thinking, or either you go straight there or you're seeing enough encouragement to think that over the months you might get there.
Yeah, she might get there, both of them. But I think if they run into Stateman here in November and they run into Stateman again at Christmas or in January to DRF, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them ends up back in the mare's hurdle. I rode lots of really, really good mares. I rode one that was good enough to win a champion hurdle.
Which is a nice segue to her son, Mystical Power. Annie Power, obviously, is who Ruby is referring to. Let's have a look at what Mystical Power managed to do last season as a novice.
Mystical Power is the one novice we know from last season that is staying over hurdles. He started in Galway when he beat Samui. He then went to Punchestown for the Moscow Flyer where he beat Jagoro. But every run with him was better. Got to Cheltenham, not quite good enough to beat Stade Steel, even if he did land in front over the last, before he went to Aintree and showed his guts and determination. He beat Firefox, and when he went back to Punchestown, well, he beat Firefox further. You could argue this fella got better with every run last year, and who knows, maybe he hasn't stopped improving yet.
I think he shouldered his way into consideration at the top table here with Willie Mullins. You can tell from where he started and how he was spoken about during the course of the season. He just keeps putting his hand up, doesn't he?
He just keeps improving. But to be fair, so did his mother, and plenty will argue so did his father.
Absolutely. Amazing pedigree from Mystical Power. It'd be great to see what he can do. And now, just to round off this section, we have another horse, a British-trained one, a winner at Cheltenham on Sunday, who could well end up in the champion hurdle. He's got a lot to find to get there, but it was an improved performance in the Greatwood, and Ruby is going to analyse it.
So to analyse Burdett Road, I think you have to go back to the beginning with Burdett Road, and that's way back when I started in Huntingdon. But we're going to look at him in Cheltenham last November. Down the back straight, very, very keen, doesn't get off the ground, flattens this hurdle. But ultimately, he was still good enough to go and win the race and quicken up well to beat on Braden Fassa. He came back to Cheltenham in January, still quite keen with Harry Cobden. You can see him jumping better. But ultimately, in this day, he is no match for Sergino. Now, that ultimately could be not a bad thing because Sergino has been exceptional. Then he went back to the flat. Ascot in July, York in August in Ebert, Chester he was in September in Chepstow. But this was him in the Godolphin Stakes at Newmarket. Booked out and made the run and won the race. Those tactics couldn't be employed at Ascot because he reared in the stalls and missed the break and ended up sat behind Trawlerman inside the Euphrates, and he was still, when he got cover, still very keen. But the one notable thing is the hood is gone. So obviously they thought he was starting to settle. And when he went to the Greatwood, then he wasn't good enough for Kyprios. We're not going to slag him for that. But when he comes back to the Greatwood, no hood, Harry Cobden makes the running on him, and he did settle. He jumped out. Now he went a decent gallop early on Burdett Road, who's much more relaxed and jumping way better. There's no row, no fight. Pings the first hurdle in the Greatwood, gets to the third hurdle running downhill. Harry Cobden's hands on his neck, no need for control, and he was dictating this race. Fifth hurdle as it started the rise up the hill, all the field is behind him. You can see Dice Arlenas on the outside. She was quite keen on the Johnny Burke, whereas Burdett Road has relaxed perfectly. Down to the second last, he's the one that's quickening. Dice Arlenas on his inside. She wasn't able to maintain that, and she fades off him. He quickens up, jumped the last really well, and I think it was a good performance. Now straight away, because the horse wins a Greatwood hurdle, because Rooster Booster did it, people start saying champion hurdle. This is run at the same venue as the champion hurdle. On this performance and this performance alone, the only champion hurdle he could run in is the Scottish one. but if he keeps progressing, and even with a penalty to get the champion hurdle standard, he'd probably have to win another handicap to get there. And look at the sections. Harry Cobden controlled this. First 3 furlongs, 18, 13, 14, went to gallop to get in control of the race, and then look at them. 15, 18, 15, one quickish one running downhill at 7, 15, 15, 15. He completely controlled the race, which allowed him to run the last sections all under 15 furlongs. It was a good race, a good ride, but it was a race that Harry Cobden completely controlled.
Absolutely. It's the fact, I suppose, that the horse has grown up enough to let him do that. He wouldn't have been able to do
That's
it
the
this time
admirable
last
thing.
year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry Cobden of the view that that kind of race would be a good next stepping stone for the horse rather than necessarily going big into graded company early. The thing that I'm really struck by watching that again and also having a look at the sectionals is Be Aware, who came from much further back than the winner and third. He is going to win a big one this season, isn't he?
He is, and you wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't until Newbury in February, but it puts context on where Burdett Road is. If he's to progress, and he's still only a 4-year-old, progress to being a champion hurdle horse, you'd imagine he'd be winning another handicap, probably again at Ascot.
So that's where we are with the 2-mile hurdlers. We'll have much to analyse in the Morgiana this time next week. In the meantime, you can take a look at the column, which is racingtv.com/Road to Cheltenham. I'm focusing on the 2-mile chasers this week. And Ruby and I will be back again next Thursday at 9 o'clock. See you then.
Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.